Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Boots on the Ground. This week, we're diving deep into unique business perspectives. Today, we're exploring an interesting correlation, one that you might not have thought of. The business of real estate and the fitness industry have more in common than meets the eye. Both revolve around trust, the customer experience, and understanding the unique personal needs of many personal individuals. To help us explore this parallel, we're honored to have with us a special guest. He's not just an expert in fitness, but also a motivator, an innovator, and a business owner. Please welcome Jay Arzadon, the head coach and founder of Arzadon Fitness. My name is Ian Busher. I am a broker with the Fox Marin team. Keep her number handy. This is Kori, Marin, in-house hype girl and resident expert listing broker. And of course, a good man to know, Mr. Ralph Fox, our analytical, investor-driven macro picture watcher. Friends, we love you and we want to keep you updated. So please don't forget to comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Over to you, Kori. Take us away.
Well, we are super privileged to have with us a fitness maestro who has continually transformed lives through his distinct coaching methodology with over a decade of championing the union of exercise science and nutritional strategies. Jay's holistic approach goes beyond surface level training. He dives deep into every facet affecting performance and health, ensuring his clients not only reach, but often surpass their envisioned goals. Jay's commitment to precision in fitness is echoed by an impressive list of qualifications, from being a level 2 strength coach with Pelican Institute to honing specialties in program design, hypertrophy, fat loss, and sports performance with the esteemed Kilo Strength Society. His credentials also span nutrition, muscle testing, personal training, and wellness with recognized institutions such as MECA, N1 Education, the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and more. Please join us in welcoming a true advocate for physical excellence and a visionary in the fitness world, Jay Arzadon. Jay, thank you so much for being with us today. We cannot thank you enough. As our audience already probably knows, we all love fitness and health, and we're constantly talking about the crossovers between our industries. So this is a great topic for us to explore together.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. That's quite the introduction, Kori. Loved it.
Well, I basically took your bio and then I reworked it a little bit. So you earned that introduction. Ralph, talk to us about how you guys know each other.
Well, first of all, I think that is such a great introduction. Maybe we can get our editors to put that on a loop, and then Jay can wake up to that every morning. What a great way to wake up in the morning to listen to that. Maybe, can you make me one, Kori? I think I would like my own personal.
I don't think you need one, Ralph. I think you're doing just fine on your own.
Maybe for Christmas.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm so glad, Jay, you could join us today. And I think to some regards, this is almost long overdue. Working out with you in between sets, talking to you, there's just so many similarities and crossovers to what we do. It just seemed like such a natural fit. Everyone on our team is really into exercise and health and fitness. And I think it's such a great way to combine the stresses of the business that we're in and augment that with a good health and fitness regimen. So many crossovers here. You are the perfect guy to have on our show. One of the things before we get into it, I really like is if you could a little bit explain your business model and why what you do is so different, because I think what you're doing in the fitness world is really, really, really unique. And one of the things that drew me to you was your unique approach in your business and in your model, which seemed very similar to us and what we're doing in real estate. And that's what naturally attracted me to you. And I think that's why we've been having the success we have working out together.
One thing we like to say to clients that walk through a door or potential clients is that we're not in the business of personal training, but we're in the business of transformations. And what we do really best is quantify your goal, right? And it all starts with, our model and our approach to transformations. So with our business model itself, we're the only business in Toronto where our personal trainers get paid an annual salary. And they can double or triple their salary based on the results of our clients. And traditionally in the personal training industry, it's fairly new. It's been, it didn't really hit off to the 70s or 80s. But if you walk into any kind of personal training business or commercial gym, trainers are basically paid on sessions. They're trading time for money. So if you walk into the gym, they're going to say, yeah, you should commit to 24 sessions, et cetera, 36 sessions. The only incentive for the trainer is to ensure that you do those sessions and also renew the sessions. And basically sales and etc. Our guys their incentives are basically to get our clients results. Now, the trick, the question always that, that comes in our consultations is, okay, well, what happens if I want general health? Well, we have to quantify that. So what is general health? That can be very subjective. So one thing that we do, where we're constantly trying to improve, is quantify goals. And when we get a question like general health, we're like, okay, well, one thing that we can improve is, VO2 max. Ralph and I talk about VO2 max all the time, right? And there's such a huge correlation between VO2 max and longevity. So those are ways how we quantify goals and how we basically rate pay our trainers based on results, right? So they don't have to worry about sales. They just have to ensure that they are, achieving results for their clients.
What about those calipers? Oh, I hate those calipers.
Oh yeah, those calipers, right? So yeah, that's another big thing we actually changed in our model. So one thing that we do well is we specialize in improving body composition. And one metric we used to look at was always just like weight and body fat. But when a client would lose like 20 pounds and 10% body fat, whatever the case was, it would always look kind of like similar from picture A to B when you compare the before and after. It was like frustrating me because sometimes a client wouldn't be able to see the result, but like the metrics are there. Like you see it on the scale, but it just looked like a smaller version. The biggest struggle I had with the business was how do I wanted before and after, so I wanted to be different, and was how can I, make these results, these before and afters the way I want it, but not be subjective. So what we came up with was the shoulder to waist ratio. So we actually measure their shoulders and their waist, and we create this tier system where trainers are actually paid each time they hit a tier, they can actually reach up to $1,000 bonus each tier. So we still use the calipers. Ralph loves the assessment day, right? So we use the calipers to kind of dictate.
Especially when you're measuring right here, I feel like a fish.
Yeah, on the chest, under the cheek, yeah, right. So the calipers are really unique too because it kind of gives us what we call a general hormonal profile picture of our client. So we know where to start. What kind of nutrition plan they need to start with, what kind of workout plan, right? So like if someone comes in, like our typical clients are like very type A, fast paced, go 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 go. So we have someone like that. We're not gonna beat them to the ground when it comes to the gym, right? So it kind of gives us some data to work with and understand what would be the best approach for that particular client.
So it's very customized and metric, results driven, goal focused.
Yeah. We always say we're not rent-a-friend trainers. We're here to be your fitness and wellness advisors. Right?
Love it.
So that's
Okay, let's just take a step back because I always find this so interesting about this industry, much like our industry. So tell us a little bit about your background and our viewership. Where are you from? Where did you pursue your education? And then how did you get into personal training? And then how did that grow into your own fitness facility?
Yeah, I think it all started, I was pretty athletic growing up, played hockey. Small guy. I also played football, basketball, right? I got into lifting, and I remember the day I asked my dad to buy my weights and he refused to buy me dumbbells. So I was 14 when I wanted to lift, and he saw the effort I put in. Well, I was lifting encyclopedias back then. I don't know if I was like doing bicep curls with that. And I think that was my first exposure to kind of the fitness. I started buying magazines, and then I saw that Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary. What's it called? Pumping Iron.
Oh,
Best movie ever made.
So that was the bodybuilding side, and I got really into performance, and I loved the science behind performance and how to get someone faster, stronger, and etc. And that's really my background, right? But how I got in the fitness industry, I first got a diploma in business management, George Brown, and then I decided to pursue a health and fitness promotion certification. I actually wanted to originally become a chiropractor. I just liked really helping people. I like being a coach, you know what I mean? Like a leader. I was always like that guy in the group that was always like organizing events and just like leading the group. And, that guy would listen and give people advice. So it kind of thought, kind of went hand in hand. I also love fitness. So I I did my fitness diploma, then I had like a gap, a 9-month gap before I would go into kinesiology and pursue my career in chiropractics. And I joined a gym actually in Liberty Village. Not there anymore. Yeah. And they hired me first as their membership coordinator. And then I was able to increase their membership sales by 50% within a year. So they had 700. And I think I got them to about just over 1,600.
And what was that process like? Like, how did you improve the metrics so much with that?
I just hustled. I was in Liberty Village. There's all these businesses around there, and I just literally went door to door and I set up corporate rates and all that, and then increased. And then I was learning a lot about the business. They promoted me to assistant general manager, and then general manager, and then I got into personal training because of this. My first mentor, actually, in the industry, her name is Helen Fox. I always loved training. I was a huge, Charles Paul Quinn he's a big mentor of mine as well. And I was doing really well for myself financially at the time with the membership sales, personal training sales. And I had a chat with my father, and he's like, listen, I don't want to pay for another 4 or 6 years of school. You're doing really well for yourself. I think you should pursue this. That's why I went into it. And then, long story short, gym went under, unfortunately. And then I had a choice. Either I go pursue the chiropractic, go back to school, or give this a try. And I just loved the interactions I would have with my clients and the challenges I would have, and I was dealing with some high profile people, and they looked at me as like an expert. It was like the greatest feeling. And it was so empowering to see the change I could make with these people and the impact I had in their lives. And that's how I got really into the personal training industry. And then I think a few years later, I decided to open my own business, and here I am.
Now, did you ever compete in bodybuilding or anything like that?
No, I love food too much.
Smart answer.
I thought about it. It's just that whole scene is just not me. I'm not saying I disagree with it or anything like that. It was just never really had interest in it. To be honest with you, I had more interest in the business side of things. I didn't really have the time to dedicate to it, right? And I love strength. Like, I love the numbers game. I love having that bar on my back and trying to beat that number every week. And that's why I enjoy training Ralph, because he's the same way. He's like, Jay, are we doing a PR today? I'm like, hold your horses. Let's see how it works, right? So
fantastic. Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you not open your facility during COVID? Like, tell us a little bit about that story.
So I was on my own since probably 2012. I didn't really start taking seriously until around 2015, 16, a corporate in 2017. I remember that this day, actually. You guys trained there. Remember Clance's spot, right? So Clance called me, and he's like, listen, I'm moving to North York. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I still had clients. I didn't know what I was going to do. And my wife was pregnant at the time. She just moved down to Chicago. To Toronto. We met in Chicago. She was like, why don't we just take over the space? I'm like, are you sure? She's like, let's just go for it. Like, you're good at what you do. Let's do it. So I decided to do it, and we opened this. We partnered up with another colleague of ours, and we shared the space, and we started 2017. And then COVID happened, 2020, right? So our lease was 3 years, and we had 2 months left, and then they had the lockdown.
Oh, wow!
Right. Funny story though, we put an offer on a second space when that all happened. And we backed out right away. It was in Midtown, but it was a really tough time for sure. During that whole time, but we survived it. We retained about 95% of our clientele. It was quite the experience for sure.
And were you retaining them through online training? Like, tell us about that.
Interesting enough, none of our clients wanted to do online training. It just wasn't the same, because we take such a bespoke approach for our clients, right? It's a very holistic approach as well. And if you work out in a gym, we're very, we're in there. We're not, we're right in there. We're in there. We're not just counting every rep. We're like, we're watching you. We're making sure you're on point, or your form is good, your tempo is good, etc. So that energy just wasn't the same through online. We tried it, but no one really, I think it was really just the community itself that kept the clients and brought the clients back. Right? It took a while for some people to come back because of the restrictions. They weren't sure, right? But,
Yeah, online training. I did a lot of online training during COVID, and it's so boring.
Yeah. Not the same. Not the same.
It's not the same, right? Yeah. It was funny because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's going to go online, fully online." The personal training that I'm like,
it was just better than nothing. That's really all it was.
Yeah.
Some people use that as the excuse to do nothing, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Kori, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, it was just so brutal. Like, I was like, how are we going to not have a gym? And so I would go to our rooftop deck and I would do these Barry's boot camp classes online, and I would do like doubles because I felt like one didn't seem hard enough. So I would do like two, and I would just like slam myself around, like doing like all these like plyometrics on the rooftop deck. Like my tan was awesome, I must say, but I don't think I really like benefited from much of that. But it was like the only thing that I really had to keep me accountable. And there's sort of
and the chin-up bar that we bolted to the wall in our living room. But that's another story.
That's a whole story for another day. Okay, so I just want to make sure I got a sense of this timeline. You've taken over this space that your wife encouraged you to do. You have a partner. You come to the end of your 3-year lease. COVID hits. You seem to be able to move through that somewhat effortlessly, considering all of the variables that were attacking you left, right, and center, and everything that we all know. We don't need to rehash those times. And then from there, is that where Arzadon birthed from there? Or like, was that the beginning of your business that you currently have now?
So it was currently the beginning of the business that we have now. We were truly like on our own, but a little back end, which will be good for the viewers here. What we had to go through was that our lease ended in like May. So we had the choice either to stay in the space we are in now or put our stuff in storage. We decided to put our stuff in storage. We had a bit of a conflict going on. We're like, hey, you know what? Let's just put our stuff in storage. We'll figure it out. I don't want to have to pay a lease. We that offer we made on that space in Midtown was, it was dead. And if you guys remember, it was like impossible to get equipment, right? So the equipment we had, because we were sharing the space, we wouldn't be fully functional as a business. So we had to find equipment, and there was an auction in London of an old school gym. It was like 35,000 square foot. And I went over there to check it out, and I just made sure no matter what, I had to get these pieces. So we went through the auction, we got these pieces, put them into a warehouse, and just waited. Waited. Around July, I think of 2021, that's when they started opening gyms again. We looked for we found a temporary space just literally across the street from us. And we had issues there in the sense of they announced that we're allowed to open. And then the landlord there was just like, they wanted to put us on the second floor as much, but we insisted we should be on the first floor. And stucco started dropping from the ceiling onto the first floor. And they were like, we need you guys to stop operations. We're like, excuse me? Gyms are opened up. Like, we can't stop operations. Like, there's no way. Like, clients are waiting. Like, there's been no revenue for the last couple months. And so we had to stop, and then we finally opened. Anyways, our lease was 8 months, and I think we only used 3 of those months. And so we were just in storage, and then we found the space we're in now, and that's where we started. This was like we're here for hopefully a long time, and this is where it all starts. We took over this space around, I think, 2021. I think I forget now. Something around. I know we're on our 3rd year now.
That's crazy. So when you're at this auction for this Gold's Gym in London, were there lots of people bidding for the equipment?
It was crazy. There were so many people bidding on equipment. And it was a bunch of just regular Joes and a mixture of some gym people out there, but not too many. But it was the most stressful time. We had 3 computers open, and we were just bidding on making sure we get these pieces that we wanted. And it was a steal. We got some pieces on the steal. We overpaid for some stuff, but it was. And then my wife and I literally, the first time we went up there to pick up the equipment, it was just her and I. We rented a U-Haul.
Oh God.
Yeah. So because there was that was another jet. There was no movers available. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're just her and I, and my wife is like 115 or 20 pounds. Right? You know what I mean? She has some German strength in her, but like it was just like we were there all day, and then we finally we scrambled and somehow found some movers to help us out with the bigger stuff. And then we just put it all in storage. And our team helped us out as well, organize everything and put it in storage. But it was quite the, we couldn't get all the pieces we wanted, but we had enough to be functional. That was the goal. So, and then on top of that, when we opened our new space, because of the issues the economy was having with raw materials, the wait time was like 20 weeks to order equipment. So we were just trying to do what we could. We were just trying to do our best with the equipment we had, and because we just had such a strong community, you know what I mean. Our clients just didn't care; they just wanted to work out. They wanted to be part of the. They just wanted to come back. They want, So yeah.
What's the one piece that you still are like, I can't believe we spent this much money on this? What's the one piece?
It was probably the leg press, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
That we had. Yeah. Just give you an example of how much the price increased. So before the pandemic, just for a leg press was like $1,600. This day, it's over $5,800.
Wow.
Yeah. So like the overhead for our business is very high, right? And
another similarity.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. It's just like, wow. Yeah. Right. So yeah. But that was probably one piece I thought it would. But when I look at the price now, Kori, I'm just like, okay,
yeah, you're good. And so at this time, so there's your 115-pound wife with a little bit of German genes in her that can help lift some stuff. And then what's happened with your team, like your trainers and your staff? Like, are they working? Or are you just like, you know what, you guys, go live off the system for the next year or two? And, we've got this for the time being and we can retain the clients that we have. Like, how did you manage all of that with your team?
That was a bit of a challenge. There were some people who were really hesitant coming back, because there was so much uncertainty, right? They didn't know when the gyms were going to close down again. So we were short on trainers. All right. And what was interesting was that we had when we opened, we had an influx of new leads come in, which we were not expecting, to be honest with you. We thought people would be really just kind of hesitant and come back in. But so we were short. So we had to hire. And we went in the job market right away and just tried to hire some trainers. And then after the restrictions kind of just loosened up, a lot of our old trainers came back and started to work again. But we lost maybe one trainer because of the uncertainty, and it was a tough time for everyone. His mother lost her job and he had to support her, so he went to a different profession. And he was like the first guy I ever hired. So that one hurt, right? But I understood. Family comes first, right? I would have done the same thing. But it was a bit of a struggle getting the team back.
And is it hard to hire trainers? Tell us about that, because I always get the sense from our perspective, not obviously being in the industry, that it'd be very hard to find awesome trainers out there. And I'm so excited to hear your answer on this. And I know that Ralph, myself, and Ian, we spend a lot of time, considering bringing on new agents to our team, but we're very selective about that. And there isn't an abundance of people that we're like, oh, I wish we could have all these people. It's a very curated process, and we have to be very protective of the group that we have and that dynamic. But then at the same point in time, it's not like there's like a slew of amazing people that we would want to bring on regardless. So tell us a little bit about hiring, finding good people. Like, what are you looking for? Let's talk shop about that.
So let me just start first. I was really bad at hiring people. At first, I learned the last, I'd say 3 years, I learned a lot.
Same.
Right? So it was same. Yeah. So I used to look at the resume and credentials. I have with my background with the Polygreen Group and Kilo, I'd always look for those kind of credentials. But the issue that we have in our industry is there's a lot of ego, right? And when I used to interview people, I would just look at their resume, like, we need to get this guy. So I would ask them questions, and it would be like the standard interview questions, and they would know how to answer them. And they would know what we want to hear, right? So when I used to interview like that, after three or 4 months, you start learning about the person. Like, if this person does not fit our team, right? They're just not willing to put their work in. They're not putting the extra steps in. How do we change this? And this is when I started realizing that, I need some help. I hired a consultant who still consults for us. He's actually a client of ours. We came up with our core values, right, of our business. So we live by, Ralph and I talk about this all the time. We live by our core values. We hire, we fire based on our core values. That's one way how we hire people now. So in terms of the process now, we're hiring right now. We had over 150 candidates. We screened them all, and we only accepted 25 of the applications. And what we do now is send them a case study. So we're like, okay, here's a client situation. What would you do here? Write out a program, write a nutrition program, write us, anything that's relevant to the case study, how you would get this client from point A to B. And really what I'm looking for there is just work ethic, just to see if they will actually do it. And you want to know how many out of those 25 applicants, you want to know how many of them?
No.
4.
I was right.
I was like 2.
Yeah, 4.
Wow.
So we have 4, right? 4. So that's one way how we screen people. Right? And, it's going to, again, I didn't work ethic. My interviewing skills are much better. Like I said before, I would just ask them questions. They would know how to answer. Now I just put them right into it. I'm like, okay, so you have this client. They're not compliant with nutrition. What are you going to do? Right? Oh, and then they start like, whoa, what's going on? Like, what are you putting me in this situation? Like, yeah, what would you do? Like, tell me. Like, they're not compliant with their nutrition. They say they don't have time. How are you going to coach them through that? Give me examples of how you would coach them. Right? Just put them through scenarios like that. Right? So we ask them a lot of scenario questions to really, based on our core values, to really assess how they would handle situations. Right? And then we actually take them on the floor. And we tell them to we have them train one of our clients or staff and see how they they're on the floor, how well they interact. We get this, if it's one of our staff, they'll just intentionally make mistakes and see how they correct it, and etc. And then we hire from there. Based on that, we make a decision, right? So it's a bit of a longer process. But one thing I've learned in the past as well, when it comes to my team, it's like, you can be an awesome performer, but if your attitude is not there, it doesn't meet our core values. I don't care how good you are, you're not going to be part of this team. And I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, the cost of a bad hire, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, it can be devastating to a small business. And you could have an amazing team of 10 people, and you put in one bad attitude or one poisonous, sniping,
toxic,
annoying, toxic personality. They literally can take a whole team or company down. It's just that infectious. But by the same token, to the opposite, if you find that awesome person, they can lift a company and they can lift a business up equally. And that delta is so important. And I think for any small business owner, you have to feel the pain of a couple bad hires before you stop just hiring the first person who can fog up a mirror. And you become like, okay, let's slow down here. We're in no rush to hire. We're going to take our time with this and really make sure that this is a good fit for everybody, for both parties, because it's not helpful to somebody else as well if they're unqualified or not a good fit and you put them into your company and they invest their time and energy equally and then it doesn't work out. So it's, I think, in everyone's best interest that you really make sure that you do your due diligence up front to make sure it's a good fit. And I think for us, similar, one of those core values are work ethic. And if somebody doesn't have the work ethic, they better just move along. And I think that's a big challenge in the workforce today, finding people who actually want to work as opposed to, personal trainers who want to stand around and scroll on their phones, or, somebody who's watched too many episodes of $1 Million Listing New York and thinks that they can just pick up their phone and make millions of dollars every year doing nothing. So I think that's a really key learning of any small business owner, especially when you run teams and you're client facing and you're high pressure. So totally, I mean, just so many similarities on that front.
For sure. And then in a small environment, like when you're in a fitness studio or training facility where everyone's energy affects the client experience. Like I've been to your gym and I can see what the other trainers are doing and the other clients, and where I train often as well. I'm like always watching what everyone's doing. And I think the collaborative team energy really does affect the client, whether they're training specifically with that person or not. So it's all about the culture. And whether that's how you're greeted at the door, how the owner may or may not say hello to you, the other trainers using your first name to say hi, like all of those other things in like a boutique space, I think really influence you wanting to go back. Because it does,
It's an experience.
yeah, it's a community, right? Like that's just like your home away from home. And like for me, and we've talked about this in real estate, like real estate, as much as people are like it's a people business, it's very lonely business. You spend a lot of time by yourself in your car, driving from one showing to another, waiting for a client, waiting for a call at your desk. You're alone a lot. And so for me, when I go to the gym, that is like my social part of the day. This is where I get to like hang out with the brothers I never had, talk shit. Everyone's just joking around. Like it's like my hype energy. And so to be around, those bad seeds certainly does not help a business grow or expand. There must be other qualities though beyond the ability to give people good nutrition advice or be able to give a good program. What are the emotional, I guess, those emotional qualities that you're looking for in trainers where they can connect to clients? Because it is personal fitness and it is so vulnerable because you're like right in people's space and it's their bodies. People are sensitive and opinionated.
Yeah. In terms of motive, they have to care, right? They have to take the results very personally. That's what we really look for. Like they personally really care. Like, we take we're very particular about that because like we take a very holistic approach. It's not just what you do inside the gym, it's what you do outside the gym. You have to really care about the person you're working with. That's the biggest thing. It's not just about like loving what, you have to love people, to be honest with you, and to be in this industry. Yeah. You do, right? And that's probably from an emotional perspective, what we look for, right? And it's a grind. It's people, there's a lot of misunderstandings of our industry. They just think it's like,
yes,
we just count reps. Well, it depends on what kind of coach you have, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of consumers don't understand that. They don't even know what the difference between a $60 trainer and a trainer that charges double, right? You ask any consumer, they have no idea.
Well, tell us what the difference is between the two.
My biggest pet peeve in the industry is people trainers not tracking results. You go out there and if it's a different workout every single session, there's no plan. I don't care what anyone says. They're literally just, I call it, they're entertainers. They're there for entertainment. They're a rent-a-friend trainer, right? They're just there to ensure that you get a good workout in, but you're not quantifying anything. So what are you really investing in? Right? It's like me investing in a, financial advisor, and the market's really good, and I get I get them $1 million. I get in it, but they entertain me, take me to like Julietta, all these nice restaurants. They treated me so well, such a concierge service, but I get a 2% return when the S&P was up 12%. What am I investing in? Right? So in terms of the difference, it's, to be honest with you, it's really hard to find a difference. And that's what we're trying to do with our business, is to show them a difference. This is how it should be. Your results should be quantifiable. Your trainer shouldn't be trading time for money. They should always be, checking up on you or having you track, fill out tracking or track your calories, right, Ralph? Right? It's like, you know what I mean? They should be, asking you questions like, how's your sleep? And, it's more than just the gym. The gym is literally 3% of your day, right? That's not going to get you the transformation you want. It's going to be, you got to look at things like your sleep, what you're doing outside the gym, how you're eating, even just how your outlook of life. Like you have to be, stress is the number one thing that we try to work on with our clients.
I need a lot of help.
Like that. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do different with our business, right? Is kind of quantify all that and track that data and show them the importance of, we can be we're very objective when we talk to our clients, right? So it's like, listen, you haven't been sleeping the last 3 weeks. This is your weight has, based on this data, your lifts have, your weight has not changed and your strength has not increased. Because you should technically increase, your strength should increase 1 to 4% technically every week, right? Depending on what level you're at. But that's, we're looking at data, all right? We know this, right? And this is how we communicate with our clients all the time. That's what trainers charging over $100 should be doing. The basic things, even taking blood pressure and heart rate.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that do that. right? But they should do that, right?
And do you think that your clients coming into the gym know that they're getting an exceptional experience, or do they only know that if they've trained other places?
That's a great question. We actually just signed a client who just lost, I think he said he lost 23 pounds with his previous trainer in like 9 months, 6 months, which is great, right? And he came in for a consultation. I told him about our model, and he signed up for like a 6-month transformation. And within his his second session, he already referred us like 2 people. That's because he's had experience, right? So he knows this is a whole different level, right? So yeah, for sure. It's easier for us to, I guess you want to use the words, sell our program to people who've had a background or done training before.
Can see the difference.
100%.
Can see the difference.
Yeah. The difference. Yeah.
That makes sense with comparing it to real estate again, is that we often feel that sometimes our clients don't know how good they have it because they have never experienced working with anyone else. And so we're like, it's not always like this. And, on the selling side and the buying side, unless you've experienced a bad experience or worked with somebody who's average or mediocre, you might not know the value that we're adding or how our systems are in play and what great team we have and the infrastructure and how seamless everything is. And I'm like, and it feels so easy when it's right. And so when it doesn't feel like when we're doing all the heavy lifting on behalf of the client, I don't think they even realize how much is going on in the back end because we're really protecting them from the stress. And so oftentimes I'm like, and we said this, I wish they knew how much went into this and that we really did earn their loyalty and their potential referrals and our commission as well. Because I think oftentimes, much like your business, people feel like real estate brokers are often overpaid in commissions. And a lot of people don't see the value in paying a trainer $100, $150, $200 per hour because they don't understand what the difference is between somebody who's just counting reps and somebody has a long-term plan for somebody to see them through on those transformations and setting goals and all of those things. So that can be a big challenging piece to the relationships we all have with clients, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why, again, we changed our model. We always say that our trainers take your results personally. They're held accountable for your results. That's how they're paid, right? We had to do something. That's how we came up with it, right? Because it was really hard for people to understand what made us different.
I've been to so many other gyms and you see these like totally out of shape trainers and they're just like on their cell phone while their clients and I'm just like, this is so wrong. Or sometimes I just look over and I'm just like, your client just wants a friend, just someone that they can talk to. And I think a lot of those things convolute the actual role that a personal trainer should be training for somebody who's actually walking into a gym. I think it's really difficult for the average consumer to understand that until they've been around for a while and are like, okay, well, isn't there more? Shouldn't I be seeing more progress? Shouldn't I have more tangible infrastructure in place with where I want to be and how I'm getting there? And I think for me, one of the reasons why I love working with you is I'm doing things, and I have a pretty strong mindset, but I'm doing things I probably could not push myself to do on my own. And I think that is a real important aspect to a personal trainer, is pushing you beyond what you would be doing if you were on your own or with somebody who was not engaged. And also knowing when to stop and being like, you know what, I don't think we have to go any heavier today. I think we're good, Ralph.
Well, that happens a lot. We'll save it for next week. Yeah.
And then one thing I can say from an observational point of view as well, which makes your relationship, meaning Jay and Ralph's training client relationship, unique, is that Ralph highly respects you, Jay. And I think that really makes the relationship work, because I don't think if you have, like, you obviously work out, you're super fit yourself, you walk the walk, you're practicing what you preach is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It came out. You practice what you preach, and then you also run a business and a great team as well. And I feel like for somebody like Ralph, who's is reluctant to having coaching or somebody like tell him what to do, like you are very reluctant. So I feel
Very
like the
reluctant.
fact that you are able to instill that in somebody like Ralph, who can be challenging when it comes to that type of dynamic, I think says a lot for what you've been able to develop in your business. And I think that's so key to real estate and fitness and training or whatever modality it is in that type of relationship. The client has to feel that the person who's their mentor, their coach, their consultant is practicing what they preach. Like it'd be really hard for me to buy real estate from somebody who doesn't own real estate or has never sold a place before on their own or purchased a place on their own. And that like agent was still living in their parents' basement or renting or something like that. They don't know the feeling of like how high stakes it is and stressful it is and like overwhelming it is and like how everyone's just giving you an opinion all the time. Like you need to have somebody that you're like, I look up to this person because he or she has like gone through these steps on their own. So I think that really helps so much, especially in a relationship with somebody like Ralph. The fact that you have Ralph counting macros to me still blows me away. I just don't know how you did that, but God bless.
Based on our consultation assessment, like I always tell my staff, like the initial 2 weeks with your clients is the most important part of their transformation journey. If you do not set the tone from the 2 weeks, those 2 weeks, you're gonna lose them. You're not gonna hit your KPIs. It's gonna be a struggle. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like, one thing in our industry is like it's sometimes personal trainers are looked at as like, having a personal is like a luxury, right? It's like, oh, I got a personal trainer, right? I always tell our guys like, we're not that. It's not us. We should be looked at as experts. Change your mindset. You set the tone. This is your house. Right? And I kind of came to this realization when early in my career, I told someone, hey, you got to do 10 more. He's like, make me. I'm like, excuse me? And this guy was like type A, high performer guy. He's like, make me. I'm like, I didn't know what to say, right? And obviously that client didn't get results because I was just so intimidated back then. But I try to give these guys like a boost of confidence. Tell you guys are experts. They don't know what you know. Right? Just remember that when you're on the floor. And a lot of clients, like I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but they test us a lot in the first 2 weeks. Right? They kind of want to see what they can get away with, and like they'll challenge you. And if you back down, they'll be like, "Wow, okay, this guy works for me." Right? And I'm like, "No, that's not how it works." Now, I always tell the guys, "Don't back down." Right? If you don't know the answer, tell them you'll find the answer. Right? But don't be afraid to challenge them as well. That's your job. Your job is to be their advisor, right? So
tell me a little bit more about that. So you've got somebody who's testing you. They're testing you on the floor. Like they want to see if they can get away with not doing another set or taking a longer break by like chatting with you for a little bit too long, not following their nutrition program and hoping you won't notice. Are these the ways people are testing?
That's one way. A lot of it's on the floor though, right? Like, I'll give you an example. One client, I heard one of my transformation experts did a really good job of handling. It's a new client. She's like, I only do things in threes. That's how I do things, just in threes. So I only do 3 sets. I don't do 4. And he's like, well, that's not how things work. I mean, you have the principle of progressive overload, etc. If you're investing a lot of time and money with me, you can't just do 3 sets. We're going to have to increase your sets and etc. Right? In terms of people not being compliant with their nutrition plan, it's really taking the time to understand their why they're here. Why did they hire us? So one thing that we always ask them from the consultation, it's like, okay, what's your objective with Arzadon Fitness? What are you here for? And why is that so important to you? What kind of struggles have you had with it? And then we go back to that. They keep records of that. And we're like, so that, our transformation experts are always reminded that. So, and before we give them a client, we're actually give them all those notes and we talk to them like, this is what you should look out for. This is their why. This is how they found us, right? This is what they struggle with. They've had a trainer before. So they're kind of prepped with the things that are going to, the challenges that are going to come upon them, right? So they have, we also invest in their education as well in terms of coaching certifications, continuing education and training as well. But I tell them I always encourage them to read personal development books. We have like a book list that we give out to anyone that we onboard. Like, hey, read these books, and they're always surprised. Like, there's only like 2 or 4 training books. I'm like, but the rest are like, The Power of Habit, Atomic Habits, right? And so that's how it really comes down to the training, but really understanding the client and where they're coming from.
We have something similar where all new agents have to read 4 different books and then do a presentation on each book to the entire team, and then get them to ask questions as to how we've overcome those obstacles or how that's been relevant to us. And it becomes an ongoing dialogue with the team as they go through the book. So I think those types of things are super important for culture and for bringing commonality with values. And we totally experience it too all the time, especially early in any relationship. Parties are always testing. It could be dating. Like, it's just a natural thing. Who knows what? Who's here for legitimate reasons? Who's the smart one? Who's the dumb one? One of the things I typically love to see is usually when you're working with younger clients, eventually the parents come in, and usually the dad will try and corner you to be like, all right, let me throw a couple bombs at this agent here. And then if you survive that, they'll kind of look back at the kids and be like, okay, they're legit. They've got your best interests. You're okay here. It's one of those moments when you meet younger buyers' parents. There's that
dance.
There's elements of testing as well in relationships, because the dynamic of a couple and who has the power and who wants what and how that dynamic, and then you get lopped right into the middle of it, and you're being tested along with them, testing each other to figure out if they're going to have a semi-modern house or if they're going to have something with character or do a renovation or buy something totally done. And we're always in the middle of all of that and are testing each other simultaneously. So that happens, I think, in all relationships. We definitely see it in ours oftentimes. And I think being prepared for that, knowing that it's human nature, essentially. And just knowing how to handle that in advance makes it really easier to build rapport with people from the outset. So it's again, a huge commonality. But I think anybody that is involved as an advisor or as a coach, taking somebody through a process, which is what we both do, or all of us do, setting the tone very early on is super important. And showing that you're there for the right reasons with integrity and that you're there to look out for their best interests is super important.
Totally. And it makes so much sense that in fitness, that building trust and that rapport would be that testing period, because I think so many people have been given so much bad advice over so long, and we're just inundated all the time, nonstop, whether it's podcasts or YouTube videos or magazine articles. And one day it's keto and one day it's this, and nobody knows what they're doing. Like, we think there's a lot of misinformation out there about real estate, but I think there's even more mass misinformation and a huge marketing engine behind fitness and health that just keep everybody confused. So I can see that the earning the trust period would be part of it, because, we've all been steered in so many different directions. And so I can see why people feel like that wall up initially for that buy-in, because they need to see a little bit of progress probably before they're like, okay, I'm really willing to commit to this guy or this girl or whoever's giving the consultation, because we're also like, I don't know what we're doing. In terms of ideal clients, tell us about who your ideal client profile would be, and then probably the worst client to get in your space.
Okay. So our ideal client is just Ralph is an ideal client. I always tell my colleagues, but our ideal clients are high performers. Right? They want to get at point A to B as quick as possible, right? And it's efficient, right? But they want a holistic approach. They want a bespoke service. They want an experience as well. Our worst client is basically the complete opposite. But how we've kind of tackled that is just our business model itself. I know I mentioned earlier, we only offer programs that are 6 months or 12 months long.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you've done personal training before, right, Kori? So it's people do a session model. Right. So the way we work is that our model, it's a win-win situation, both the consumer and the, personal trainer, I guess, right? Because they literally have 6 months, you have 6 months to achieve your transformation, and you can train as many times as you want with your coach. Mm-hmm. And you have full access to the gym. And you have full access to your program, everything, etc. Because of that model, now it kind of weaves out the people who are just looking for a rent-a-friend, right? or personal, and that's fine. Like I'm not nothing against that, right? You know what I mean? Like I've had clients who've been with me for years, who've achieved the transformations, they've kind of gone back and forth, but you know what I mean? That's fine. I don't have anything against that, but we didn't want to be in the business of that. We wanted to be different. So that's why we came up with that model. And now the consumer's like, okay, crap, I have 6 months. And now we're tracking metrics. We're doing assessments. We're like, hey, you're kind of behind your goal, you know, right? Like, how can we support you to get your goal? But as soon as people hit that model, right, they already know if they're going to move forward or not. And one thing that, you know, I've learned when it comes to, you know, I guess selling is understanding where the consumers are in the buyer's journey. Are they ready to buy? Because sometimes people come in, they're literally ready not to buy. It costs way more money to have a bad, you know, deal with a bad client and not get the result you want. It's just time and effort, right? That's the first thing that we kind of look for. So to kind of, hopefully that kind of answers your question. Like that's why we've kind of modeled our business the way it is now. It's because we try to weave out the people who are looking for personal training or just a rent a friend, right? So now people are like, okay, well, this guy's getting paid on results. I have 6 months to get it, to achieve my goal. All right, let's do it. I'm in. I know what's committed, etc.
That makes so much sense that you would be weeding out people that aren't all in with that model. And I love that. And I think just to address what you said, it's not in your best interest to have people who are half committed because it's your programming, it's your name, it's your business, it's attached to their success. And you don't want people that are like, oh my God, I went to this place and I bought a 6-month package and I didn't get anything out of it. And then 1-star review or whatever they might do. And that's because they didn't come in with their full effort. I mean, this is I would imagine, and I'd love to hear what you think the ratio is, but I would think it's 80% the client and 20% the trainer being the consultant and the leader? Or do you think it's more 50-50?
I think it's 50-50 or even 60-40 with the trainer. One of our biggest core values is integrity.
Same.
Right? It's your job to let someone know if they're falling off. If they're falling off, you're responsible for their results. Right? If a client is, this is why we changed our model, right? If a client is signed up for 36 sessions and there's no timeline on it when they have to complete it, they know they can just cancel whenever they want. Right. So, but one thing I teach the guys, I'm track everything, track their attendance. They're complaining about results and they're not getting, or they're not where they should be in 12 weeks time. Look at the data. They'd be like, okay, listen, you agree to come in 4 times a week. You've averaged 2.7. Right? How can I support you to come in and, how can I support you to increase that attendance number? Right? What do we need to do? So that's why I kind of this, I always tell the guys, it's on you to a degree. I'm not saying it's completely on you, but you have to act as an effort. And that's why integrity is one of our biggest core values. You have to be honest with your clients, right? It's almost like buying a house. If someone wants a $1.8 million house, but they can really only afford 1.5, but they're asking for all the special amenities of a house or whatever. You have to set their expectations. This is not going to happen.
There's such a great quote by Jim Rohn, and the quote is, "You can't pay somebody to do your push-ups for you." I just love that quote. And in real estate, it's one of the things that we'll say when we onboard. We have an extensive onboarding process, but when we onboard a new buyer, we tell them that they have to treat this like a part-time job. And it's so amazing how, not just with people's personal fitness, but with real estate and investment, how they can be looking at making a massive $1.8 million investment. And yet they'll spend more time planning a vacation or thinking about, are they going to go to Julieta or are they going to go to Daphne for dinner tonight? And so, we imbue this on them that we can only help and guide them and we can hold them accountable. But if they're not willing to go out and look at properties, if they're not willing to give us feedback, if they're not willing to be communicative, they're not going to get the results and they're not going to get the outcome that they wanted. And so very similar to the experience of being a trainer, when you're working with clients to get the result that they want, you have to hold them accountable and remind them that even though you're there as their guide or as their advisor, you can't actually pick up the phone, text that you're going to see a property, walk out the door, drive them. Like, they have to take these steps on their own. There's only so much that you can do. And I think really holding people accountable to understanding that if they want the outcomes that they say they want, they are going to have to do the work. And I think it's very similar both between real estate and what you guys are doing, Jay, that you can guide and assist and help and coax and have metrics. But at the end of the day, if somebody's not willing to invest in themselves to get the outcomes and the goals that they want to achieve, it's never going to happen. And so just like if you're somebody just wants a personal friend or just want to say they have a trainer, that's not a good outcome for you. And ultimately, it's not a good outcome for them. And similar to us, if somebody, I just want to go once a month and maybe look at something, but if I'm busy, then I don't want to do that. They're not going to have a good experience. You're not going to have a good experience, and no one's going to get what they want.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit here and just talk a little bit about marketing and branding and positioning. So you've got this great model. I love it. I'm totally in. Like, I believe it. I've seen Ralph have an amazing experience with you and your team. So given the multitude of options out there for potential clients, and as I mentioned, like, we're just bombarded with options, how do you tell this story? How do you get this messaging out there? And what way are you doing that? Through referral, through social media? Like, how do people find you, and how do you get this messaging out there for people?
So it's a great question, especially in the position we are now in the business. Originally, all our clients was referral based. From like we incorporated in 2017 till today, it's been referral.
Okay.
Until we changed our model, and I didn't get into this, a whole can of worms where we had to let go about 60% of our team, right? So we had to, in terms of referrals, because some of the clients would go with them, we felt a bit of a decline there. But what we're doing right now is really doing a lot of community outreach right now, right? That's one thing, right? And it's, we figured that's probably one of the cheapest ways to market yourself. So we're looking, we just had a great holistic health clinic in here called For Your Health's Sake, just to learn about their business and see how we can work together. And, we're trying to develop these partnerships, and, it's really just effort, right? In terms of, so save on costs, because this model is very new. It only started last November. One thing that we're trying to do as well is post client before and afters. We take pictures with a billboard and, show them the experience. And another thing is like doing podcasts like this, trying to just get the word out there more, right? Like, that's another way, right? And that's, another reason why we're doing the whole community outreach too, because a lot of people are like, that's such a unique business model, or I've never even heard of you guys. I'm like, so that's what we're kind of doing from a marketing and brand perspective. We figured that's the best way, because one thing we looked at our data is that most of our clients live in like a 2-kilometer radius. So why spend money on expensive Google ads in a very competitive market?
The transformation photos, I feel, are probably the best tool that any fitness facility could possibly use. I mean, maybe it's just that I'm like the perfect person to see them. I do some online coaching as well. As you know, we talked about it, and they do they're just all online, and they do such a good job of showing the average everyday woman in their 40s and 50s, making these transformations in 12, 16, 20 weeks. And they go from being like, average to looking not like influencers, fitness influence. They look just fit and healthy. Like, you're like, this is not some bullshit place. This is like real human beings that I can relate to when I look at this before picture. And it's one I can relate to after, because it looks realistic. It doesn't look like I'm looking at some 20-year-old, Instagram fitness influencer. I'm like, well, I would love to look like a Victoria's Secret model, but that is not really realistic right now. So I think they do such a good job using that as a tool. So I love that you're doing that, because I think people can relate to it. And then that helps with the buy-in, and then that helps with the trust. And then they feel like they can hone in on a goal and feel like it's attainable. And like all of those things are such a big piece for people feeling successful in their fitness journey. So that makes so much sense. And you telling this story with social media as well?
Yeah, we plan to tell it on social media, but one thing that we want to do is talk about the industry. That's just like how we're doing now, right? Just talk about, be more polarizing and talk about the BS that's out there and how we're different, right? Like, one thing, my wife is always, you just gotta go out there and just start, rambling out and just vent in a nice way. She's always in a nice way. Don't be like, how you talk to people, just in a nice way. But people need to know because they just don't know what to look out for. Right. And, so that's, it's funny when you guys invited me to this podcast, it's like the third one I was invited to. It's like, it's starting to get out there more. Right. And the hardest thing of being a business owner, which you guys probably understand as well, is like stepping off the field, and being more strategic and less tactical. It was the biggest transition for me. And I'm still like not completely, transition. It's something that, the focus this year is to really get our name out there through the, like I said, before and afters. And
you've got a lot of Google reviews as well.
Yeah, Google reviews as well, right? So we're just trying to really, show what clients should expect, what people should expect when they work with us, right? And we're very specific too with our reviews. We tell our clients, please tell them what program you did, what your result was. I don't want to hear that this patient was amazing, blah, 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 blah. No, I want people to realize that you got a great return on your investment and effort, and you spent 6 months. Like those are key points. I don't, as much as I love the guys, still, you can talk about them, but put the emphasis on that. And if you read our reviews, for the most part, that's what they talk about, right? And yeah, a lot of people find us in Google because we're not really as active on social media and stuff like that yet. It's just something we're definitely actually working on right now.
Awesome.
Right.
So you're working on you're trying to transition from working like in the business to working on the business, which is always a very difficult transition to make. And Ralph and I talk about this a lot because there was a long, long, long period, and Ian, I know, knows this too, because we've all worked together for so long that we were like the everyman of the business. Like we were the stagers, we were the movers, we were social media marketers, we were blog writers, we were a listing coordinator, we were like the project manager. We were practically the painter at one point, I'm sure. Actually, I know we've all painted a wall for a client or two. So it is hard. And it's also hard to feel like it's okay not to train or take on every client, and that we've got awesome people that can support all of us and our client base and offer the same level of service, if not better, because they're able to, hone in on them and give them the time and dedication that they deserve and require to see the success they want, whether it's in training or in real estate. So that totally makes sense.
The biggest challenge is you've gotten to a point where you've grown so much, but the way that you've grown is by saying yes to everything. Yes, we'll figure it out. Yes. Doesn't make sense. Yes, doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. Yes. And then all of a sudden to be able to pull back and step off the field and into the stands where you can direct and you can have a bigger influence on the scalability of your business, you have to start saying no. And it's a very scary thing as a business owner in a small business to start saying no to things or no to opportunities, and equally to start to have to trust other people to do the same level of work that you have done for your clients or for your business, and to think they themselves will, and not be there and just trust that you've hired well and you've imbued them with all of your values and they know exactly what they should and shouldn't be doing, and then just to stand back from that. And that is the biggest challenge. And it's kind of like if you were to do an arc, you could have personal trainer, you could have opening a gym, and then you can have business owner. And it's the same thing from going to being an agent to being on a team to owning your own brokerage to being a business owner. And like there are these steps, and I can see such similarities in what you're trying to do aspirationally and what we're very much trying to do aspirationally. But it is interesting, and it is interesting to see those parallels in businesses that are highly customer service oriented.
And so hands-on. And where the But the relationship is so important. And you feel when you are the trainer or the agent that there is nobody better than you because of the relationship you have with people. I'm like, people just want to hang out with me and have coffee. Like, I can't give this person away to somebody else. They want to hang out with me. Like, that was all ego on my part, obviously. And I just had to get over myself. And there's like much more competent people out there. And it doesn't have to be me. But I felt like I was like, oh my God, I can't do that. Like, they're going to be so mad at me if I'm not personally handling the transaction or looking after their purchase. And it didn't matter at all. At all. I don't think anyone cared once. I don't think anyone was personally offended. So I completely get that. When you're talking about scaling, speaking of which, like, what's your vision for 2 years from now and maybe like 10 years from now for yourself and your business?
Yeah. So 2 years from now, we're currently expanding our team now, but we want to have like 6 trainers on the here. And I'm kind of transitioned out. Like, I'm training select VIPs like Ralph Fox, right? So, and I'm working more on the business, but 2 years from now, we just want to kind of get our name out there and be known of what we're doing. Because a lot of our clients tell us that they're just like, no one knows about you guys. And I'm like, I know, it's all me. I'm like, we're not doing the marketing, or we're not on the social media channels, and we're not talking about the business. But that's the biggest goal for the next 2 years. On top of that, as well, is streamlining all our processes. Our big goal is to being able to repeat this business and make it into a franchise, right? You know what I mean? And that starts from the first location, right? And so what we're really trying to do, like, Ralph always laughs when I say the word CRM. Like, there's not that many personal training businesses that even use the CRM, or we know what it is, right? And we're looking at data. We're trying to really understand our clients. We're trying to streamline all our processes that, maybe really create an experience, not just in the gym, but outside the gym as well. So in 2 years, we want to be able to, it's you guys can probably give me some advice, but it never ends.
Never
right?
ends.
You're always trying to, it never
ends.
Never.
It's funny because when you're always talking about your CRM, I think every real estate agent thinks that the CRM is going to solve all of their challenges and make them organized. And every real estate agent, every real estate team, every brokerage, they've all been on like 6, 7, 8 CRMs, and it's all just hell. And so when I hear CRM, I just get this pit in my stomach, and I watch you sort of struggling with it. And it's just, it's a nightmare in our industry. And every agent who's been in the business, I'd say for 10 plus years, has probably been on at least 5 or 6 different CRMs and still hasn't found something that works for them. Maybe with AI things will change.
I like our current CRM.
Yeah, we don't. It's very basic.
That's why I like it. We don't need
exactly.
We don't need. That was the one that just put me over the edge, guys. Like, I went to a conference in.
We might want to bleep that out.
I went to bleep conference in Denver to learn how to use bleep. And it was so agonizing. And let's just talk about the fact that New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, I was still working on the drip campaigns in bleep, that no one ever used. Bleep. Like, I was like, bitter. So yes, I think simple is good when it comes to the CRM, but oh my gosh, yes. I think there's not somebody out there.
The pain.
There is pain for sure. And then, so the idea is to develop this into a franchise. So you're seeing yourselves like in 10 years, you're in the ability to scale to the size that you could duplicate the business in multiple locations.
Yeah. And the reason why, because I want to give people like myself, I was always passionate about this business, right? Like, I feel like I always, there's, coming from an Asian background, my dad was an entrepreneur, right? Like, he built a business, with his own 2 hands from nothing, successful, wanted the same for his kids. None of us wanted to take over the business, but he was, he was kind of against me going this route. But he, for me, it's like, it's a hard industry because a lot of personal trainers are not business savvy. I definitely, I thought I was. I definitely realized I wasn't after we hired a consultant. But in 10 years, I want to be able to have people like people in my shoes, open a facility where they don't have to worry about they don't have to go through all the stuff that I went through. It's all streamlined.
Like, here's your book.
Right?
Yes.
Here's your book. right? This is the onboarding process. This is the CRM we use, right? These are our products. Boom, we take a little cut, a royalty cut or whatever, but you can build a career. And on top of that, trainers can build a career because now they're not training time for money. It's all based on the performance, right? That's why we changed the model. So like, trainers are now like, okay, you know what? If I get X, Y, and Z results, like if I get these clients results, I know I can double or triple my
And now
salary.
you have the trainer's goals aligned with the client's goals, all working towards the same
Exactly.
outcome.
Yeah. So that's the big 10-year vision. And it doesn't have to be massive. You know what I mean? I just want to create that opportunity for people in the industry who are me 20, in my 20s, who really want to build their actual career because the turnover in this industry is very high, especially after COVID. It's
So
very
many
high.
similarities to real estate.
Yeah.
There's something like 68,000 realtors in the GTA. That's one for every working person over the age of 18, between 18 and 52 or something like that. It's just, the numbers are insane, but it's a 50% turnover or something like that, close to it every single year. And the majority, if not 98%, do not look at this as a business or think of it as a business. And they're sort of running around similar to your industry, just client to client,
Paycheck to paycheck.
transaction to transaction. And they're not thinking long term. And I don't think the brokerage model really serves agents anymore. And that's why you're seeing the development and the onset of teams where you can now go into a culture and you can have a lot more infrastructure built in to a business to support your business and the overall business. So I think I see a lot of similarities there as well, which is really interesting.
And the similarities too, it's the type of job where people are like, oh, you work your own hours, unlimited opportunity. You can create your own business, your own brand. It's got sex appeal. Both businesses offer that. And then once you actually get into it and do it, you're like, oh, these jobs require the grind. These are grinding jobs, and they're also not deliverable to you on a silver platter within your first year or 2 or 3. You really need to earn that reputation, and you really need to earn those clients. And that does not come overnight in either of our industries. And I think that is one thing, is like people are like, oh, I thought I was going to be making as a trainer or an agent my first year a 6-figure salary. And it's going to be a big shocker when they realize that they're living off their credit lines and their visas in their first year or 2 while they're trying to put that hustle in. And if they can survive through that and make a name for themselves, then maybe there's some of that sex appeal will come into play. But I certainly did not feel that this was a very fun line of work for a while. And then when you're looking outside of like, who's a good mentor? Ralph and Ian and I talk about this, like who in your business, whether they're from Toronto or from the States or overseas, like when you look, who do you look at as being like, one day I want to have a fitness empire like this person, or I'd like to have the status of this celebrity trainer. I'm just making this up. Are there people that you look up to and they've got their shit together and one day I want to step into shoes much like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my first inspiration, outside the fitness industry, was Steve Jobs and his passion, how he created Apple. Like I was obsessed with his biography. I think I read it, twice, right? And had this whole, even though I don't have an iPhone, either way. But in terms of he's my first inspiration, and I look up to. Like I always go back to that book for just ideas and etc. But in terms of in the industry, you would actually appreciate this company too, Kori. It's a company called Ultimate Performance, based in the UK. It's started by Nick Mitchell, and he was my biggest influence for sure. I know a lot about the business. I've done a lot of my research. I've talked to people who work for him as well. I think I met him once in one of the Polygon courses. Very similar background as mine, but this guy has gyms in Asia, the UK, now he's in North America, and they're all just exactly what we do. He's really up the game, and he's the only one who really has an empire like that, right? And it's not it's interesting because it's not commercial. It's not a commercial gym. It's literally just personal trainings, but their before and afters are my
Ooh,
inspiration.
I'll have to look.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love those before and afters.
He's very polarizing too, but he has the same views as me. It's just like there's so much BS
So
out there.
much.
There's
Yeah.
so much.
Well, the last question that I have, and boys, please jump in, is, the real estate industry definitely has felt the effects of the economy and the fluctuations with the rising interest rates this year. We've talked about interest rates so much on every podcast. I almost don't even want to bring up the term. So have you observed this year any changes in your business due to these economic shifts? And do you feel like clients pull back on training when there's, a bit of a recessionary period? Is this an area that you notice people start cutting costs?
That's an interesting question. Under our old model, clients who were under our old model, a lot of them didn't renew because of the most common thing was my mortgage went up like crazy. Right, and we have a lower ticket price item that's like a kind of like a what we call like a hybrid membership. But we felt a bit of a decline there. But to be honest with you, my consultant and my wife I'm always hard. Being an entrepreneur, you're always hard on yourself, right? And one thing they made me realize, we're profitable in an economy like this. We're not where you want to be, but we're profitable. So, have we felt the effect? I don't know. Yes or no. But because our packages start at our 6-month packages start at $9,000, that kind of client, it doesn't really affect them too much. We're not selling $150 memberships, right? Or $100 memberships or classes. So, we're not feeling it as much, but we always wonder if the economy wasn't as bad, if it wasn't where it is now, where would we be?
Right? It's hard to measure.
It's hard to measure, right? So, we reached capacity now. We're hiring people, and it took us a while to get here because our model is very new. We just started in November, right? So
you can track all of these things in your CRM system.
Yeah, we can track our CRM.
If it works.
Yeah.
track all the feedback in your CRM. Okay, well, that completes my questions. Ian, Ralph, did you want to add anything or ask Jay any other questions?
I'm good. It's been very thorough, very enlightening. Thanks, Jay, for joining us.
Jay, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. What are the top 3 things you guys learned in the last 10 years of your business? And with top 3 regrets?
Ooh.
Or you can give 2.
Well, the biggest regret is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Every single property we've had that we ever sold. So I would say that's my biggest regret. There were reasons why when we had properties to sell, we did, but for the most part, we've held on to most of our portfolio, but we look back and sometimes we drive by them and we're like, wow, why did we ever sell that?
Yes.
So I think that would be the biggest regret. And in terms of the biggest learnings over the last 10 years, it's just more of the mantra, the ability and the importance to always think long term. And to translate that when you're working with your clients is to always be looking out for their long-term best interests and always be doing whatever is in their best interests. And if you have a business mindset that's always focused on not your best interests, but your client's best interests, you'll always know what decision to make in any situation. And you'll never have to worry about the business because the business will always take care of itself.
I think I would say one of my regrets is feeling like everything had to be perfect all the time, being very hard on myself, exceptionally, excruciating hard on myself about that, which made it very difficult to delegate and be okay with allowing or permitting other people to assist me or expand that way and just being so micro focused. So I think that being more open, and we've worked with business coaches too, and I think that's been really helpful. And also accepting the fact that I am not a strong leader, and this is really Ralph's role in the company, and really respecting the part of the business that I'm good at, which is like all like the creative and the back end and the systems and the doing. That's taken me a long time to learn and be okay with, and I'm still trying to be okay with that. So I think those are big ones. And then I also have to agree with Ralph, like any of the properties that we have sold over the years, hard not to give ourselves a little slap on the ass about those, but that's okay. So I think those are mine. Ian, do you have? I feel like you're writing notes. I'm so curious.
I am, because I like to, like, as they come to me, I want to write them down, because I'll be like, oh, and I just had another one and it's gone there. Like, you just disappeared. I would say, regret wise, and this touches on something you already said, Jay, is time wasted on a bad fit and trusting your personal instinct when it comes to where you should be putting your time and who you should be giving your time to. Right. So I think that takes time to learn, that it's okay to say no to certain people when you know from the outset that it's maybe not the right fit, that there's somebody better out there for them and something you could be doing that would be more accomplished with your time than trying to convert this person. Right.
Yeah, just to add on that, I think the one thing I learned too last year when we went through a huge transition is that not everyone has to like me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Also
As
true.
a leader.
Yes.
Right. Like, it's like one thing, my father owned, when he ran his business, he said, your product is very difficult because your people are your product. And then one thing I learned from another mentor, he told me that you always remember when you're talking to your staff or your team, right? You're first their boss, their mentor, and then their friend.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way. Just adding back to your point there, Ian, right? I learned that the hard way.
It's only through experience that you figure these things out.
It's funny because you start out and you're like, I've had so many bad bosses and I've seen so many terrible managers. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be the good guy. I'm going to be the friendly guy. And while it's true, there's a happy medium between both sides of that spectrum. It's really important to find out for yourself where you fit in that and how you can best lead the team, the business, the vision, the growth, and the mindset. And it takes a while to find that groove. And some people never do. But for you, like taking the leap of faith to create a model like that, which is something that certainly doesn't exist in Toronto, knowing that you're going to lose some of your trainers and you're going to lose some of your clients, and knowing that you're short-term going to take a hit to move forward to what your long-term vision is. I think that's pretty amazing. And I think as a business owner, that's a very scary thing to do because you're disrupting your whole business and you're trying to disrupt the whole industry. And a lot of people are not going to like that. And a lot of people are not going to be your friend while you're trying to create that.
Yep.
It's growing pains, right?
But it's also your ability and threshold to want to take risk, right? You just play it safe and just be like every other gym, right? But to be able to take that leap of faith, it's pretty extraordinary. And I think the people that do take those leaps of faith and succeed, because obviously some don't, those are the ones who truly end up disrupting and profiting from that long term.
Reimagining the whole thing from the ground up.
Ian, do you want to add anything else to your list?
I was going to say I think the biggest learning, and this ties into what Ralph was saying about long-term thinking, and I'm pointing like people can see how my screen is laid out. But what Ralph was saying about long-term thinking, but also, Jay, what you were saying too about how the term trainer has kind of been tainted. And for us, the term salesperson has kind of been tainted. And that's not how we want to be known. And coming into this, it was like, I'm going to help people buy and I'm going to help people sell. And then over time, the experience becomes that you recognize that you've become kind of a bit of a life coach and advisor in a lot of different things. So you become so integrated in how these people are investing and thinking about a market and understanding, setting something up for 5 years from now, setting something up for 10 years from now. And coming into this right out of the courses that you have to take to become an agent, you don't know any of that. That again is like a learn by doing experience where you realize I'm not just helping you with a single transaction. I'm helping you with understanding how this works and how to build wealth and how to build a portfolio. And that I think that kind of has similarities to what you're doing with people and their physical state. Is it's not just this week. It is what are we doing to save your life, to help your life. Anyway, that's my learning.
I love those.
Love it.
And Ian, just as a side note, as much as you're like, I don't want to be everyone's friend, everyone still loves you anyways.
Kori, I think you're the same. We end up making a lot of friends.
No, I
in
don't
this
want
business.
everyone to love me. I'm like Ralph, I'm going to be such a bitch on the call. I'm going to call
Corey's-
Rogers. I'm going to be such a bitch. And
Corey's
he's like,
smiling like with this big smile.
he's
as
like,
she
you
says
look
it.
nice still. I'm like, I thought I was being so mean. Like I was like, he's like, honestly, Kori, you
Have a
look like,
nice day. Bye.
thank
you.
You could just refund me on that when you have time, but only when you have time. It's okay. I don't
wanna-
want to bother
I
you.
don't want to bother you.
All right. Well, I love this discussion, Jay. We're going to have you back on again, and we'll have to talk about some of all of like the behind the scenes of like health and fitness, and like, I don't know, like talk about if you were to train a bunch of agents and the work weeks that we have, like what advice would you give them? And like, we've done a couple topics on this before, but I know that our viewership would love it. And I know that the three of us also would love your personal inside advice. And Ralph seems to be benefiting. So Ian and I have to catch up.
Mhm.
Ralph cannot be more in shape than us. That will be
That's
not
right.
permitted.
It's the competition now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ian, would you like to take us home?
Today, we've had the unique opportunity to bridge the business of real estate and fitness, understanding their interconnectedness, which fundamentally boils down to a client-centric approach. Jay, thank you. A big thank you to you for offering your insights and expertise, underscoring the importance of dedication, knowledge, and precision in any field. If you're interested in learning more about Jay's coaching style and his facility located at Richmond and Spadina, be sure to follow the link in the show notes below. Until next time, stay motivated and keep pushing boundaries in all of these fields. Kori, what do we normally like to tell people at the end here?
Well, I'd like to tell people to contact us because we're nice, especially you and
Now,
Ian.
Good cop, bad cop. Ralph, what do you like to tell people to do at this
Well,
point?
I think you should contact Kori and Ian because they are nice. And if you love this content, please be sure to smash that subscribe button or hit that like button. And if you have any comments, and if they're constructive, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching. We hope everyone has a really great day or night, depending when you're watching.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.